And so, hello everyone, and welcome. My name is Aura Vasquez, and I'm a candidate for Los Angeles City Council in District 10. I want to welcome all of you to this live stream, and I couldn't be more excited about the conversation that I'm going to have today with Xavier Leonard, who is an incredible human being. I'm very proud to call him a friend, and he's also a resident here in our community. But we're going to talk a lot about a lot of things, so get comfortable, get excited, go grab a couple of coffee or a tea or a lemonade or whatever of your liking. Forward this live stream to your friends, and if you don't want to watch on Instagram, we also are live streaming here in Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. So welcome everyone, and I now want to welcome Xavier Leonard. Welcome. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm loving this, and of course I love you. That's why I'm so ecstatic about doing this.
Thank you.
So real quickly, just a little bit about my background. I've been a school psychologist for 30 years, working for the Los Angeles Unified School District. I'm a longstanding member of CD10. I was part of the Education Commission under several of the CD10 Council councilmen. And I also do a lot of work with nonprofit organizations, including my own that I just started a few years ago, which is the Leonard Turner Foundation, which focuses on mental health issues primarily, also about LGBT domestic violence, mentoring, and homelessness.
Beautiful. Welcome, and thank you so much for sharing. Wow, what an impressive background. You have done so much, and your line of work has been mostly on education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Education, and yes. Mm-hmm.
So, when I decided to run for office, I called you, and you said, "Oh my God, I'm so excited! I want to help as much as I can." And it's really people like you, and it's really the encouragement of people like yourself that really keeps me going. As you know, it's so hard to run. It's so hard to run as a woman, and it's so hard to run as a woman of color, as an Afro Latina, and especially in a place where there's not a lot of Afro Latinos, and where we come from.
Right.
There's a lot of people like us. So
yes.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about how we met, and how powerful it's been for us to support each other, and also enter this new chapter in our careers together.
Exactly. And yes, tying into that was that about 6 years prior to the pandemic, I did a radio talk show called Love and X Radio. And I'm going to be transitioning to my own podcast over the summer. And you were one of the many people that I was excited to have on as a guest. From the moment I met you in Miami, we just instantly connected. And not only just because of our fun loving spirits that we were having at the occasion that we were there in Miami for, but beyond that, you had that zest and that passion for something. And it reminds me of people who I wanted to be a guest on my radio talk show. It was like they would be all nervous and everything. And the first thing I would say to them is that all you have to do is have a passion about something. I'm a conversationalist. I can bring it out of you. But if you have a passion for anything, then it's kind of like blase. So, but you always had that passion. And I think that's where our spirits were intertwined immediately. We both had a very strong passion about things that we believed in.
Yeah, and I think the two of us share our commitment to our community
Yes,
and
absolutely.
service,
Hmm.
because even the work that we do in a 9 to 5 is,
Yes.
it's about serving
Hmm.
other people and supporting other people and uplifting our communities.
Yeah.
And you have been an incredible supporter. And recently you hosted a meet and greet with some
Yes.
members of the community that we have never met. New members of the community showed
Hmm.
up, which is the beauty of hosting meet and greets and having a grassroots campaign, a people's power campaign. As I see some people, thank you so much for stopping by. Everybody that is watching, thank you so much. And feel free to ask your questions in the comments. We will bring
Hmm.
your questions in the comments, and we try to answer them. But it was so interesting that as I started sharing my story, so many people started seeing themselves reflected in my own, story. So I'm an Afro Latina. Maybe for those of you that don't maybe understand this term or don't know about this term, I come from a city in Latin America, in Colombia. I'm from Cali, and we're the second largest Black community in Latin America.
Hmm.
I believe after Haiti or Brazil. So, I never really had to deal with any of the distinctions,
Yes.
because we
Yes.
were all blacks.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
we're like,
Yes. And I shared the same kind of culture shock when I first moved to Los Angeles 30 years ago. I come from New York City. I'm from Harlem. And
yeah,
in Harlem, our area and in the New York City period, we had a lot of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans. And in
right,
New York, we all considered ourselves black. So when I
right.
first moved out here and I was placed in my first school, Hollenbeck Middle School, which was in East LA, that was when I first became aware of the schism between Mexicans and some El Salvadorians and African Americans, and it was a culture shock to me that I didn't realize this happened. I'm happy to say that over the 30 years that I've been here,
Things have
as a
changed a little.
person, it's changed significantly. I would say because there's a lot more people of both cultures making that connection. That really, when the issues that are facing all of us are the same. You know.
Right. And I want to just hone in on a few things that that are important to
Hmm.
recognize. So, part of my history, and I want to give you so many more snippets, because people ask me, for example, oh, I see your videos in your salsa class.
Uh huh.
Like, oh, you look so cute. And sometimes people don't understand the threat of why I post those videos.
Uh huh.
And maybe people have the idea that I'm talking about my dance
Dancing
classes,
skills.
because I just want to be cute, or
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
both we salseras are very cute, by the way, but that's a whole other
Uh-huh.
conversation we can have.
Yes, it's a
But
beautiful dance.
but Cali, as I was telling you guys, it's the second largest black city in Latin America, and we are the salsa capital of the world.
Mm.
And salsa music comes directly from African rhythms. It has la
Hmm.
clave, right? Pa 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 pa. We all dance.
Right, right.
In New Orleans, they also use the clave for the music that they have. But salsa music, to me, I grew up. It's kind of like folkloric to us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's like I see the beautiful folkloric music with the Mexican community and the skirts and all that. And for us, believe it or not, and for the Mexican folks that are listening to this might be interesting for you. Cumbias come also from Colombia, and cumbias are folkloric music to us.
Mm.
It's just that in Mexico, it became like a more popular kind of hangout of sorts music, which is beautiful. I mean, it's Latin, music. But I wanted to hone in on this topic before we get into the more serious
Right.
things, because people ask me about this, and I want you all to understand that my dance is so intertwined to who I am.
Yes.
I grew up
Yes.
dancing.
Yes.
Dancing is part of my mental health and my self-care.
Yes.
Dancing is when I connect with my ancestors and with my
Yes.
family. And my family is
Absolutely,
not here,
absolutely.
in
You
LA.
remind me of other form of music that we like, which is house music,
House
and a
music.
lot of soulful house music. I was just talking about that last night when we were at a place to some house music. Is that I was like, "Don't you feel the beat? Don't you feel the beat?
Yeah,
And it's that
exactly.
beat
And the
that reminds
drumming,
me of the drum of
you
Africa.
know.
It brings you back to that. And for me, like you just said, it's a release for me. It's a stress release for me. It lets me reconnect to to the ancestors. And that's why I love experiencing house music, because and it also brings out the beauty of people, the
Right.
lovingness and the connectedness that we have between each other.
Absolutely. So, so I wanted to just kind of start there because I
Mm-hmm.
want people to understand who I am. And a lot of
Right.
people don't know who I am. And now that I'm running for office, there's a lot of stuff that are kind of like, who is Aura and why is
Mm-hmm.
she running for office?
Right.
And being in Los Angeles, where there's not a huge Afro Latino, or Afro Latinx community,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm the first Afro Latina running for city council ever in the history of the city council. Just
Wow.
so you all know,
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
I'm probably the only Afro Latina right
Congratulations.
now, running, in California. So it's like exciting for me. It's such an incredible opportunity to show the world that there is also Black Latinos,
Mm-hmm.
and that there has been an intentional erasure in racism against Black folks also in Latin America.
Right.
There are
Right.
Black Mexicans, there are Black Hondurans, there are Black,
Mm-hmm.
there are
Mm-hmm.
Belizeans, there are Jamaicans. Jamaicans are
Right. Right.
Latinos too,
And
you
it's
know.
important for us, it's important to the historical context of where we were separated through slavery from those mixtures in the cultures. And it's important for African Americans who may look like me to understand that somebody who looks like you, is also part of me. And that's very key when you're in this district, particularly that is for a long time, a long-standing African American community. And I think it's important for the community to understand that you, as an Afro Latina,
Mhm.
represent us as well, and stop
Absolutely.
staying focused on the images that you used to in westernized society that makes these barriers between us.
100%. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this because I see some people saying that their kids are Black Latinos, Blaxicans, that that they love salsa music too. So again, it's interesting for me as I'm navigating this political process about really honing about my heritage,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because as a woman, I don't think people go out there, and if a man is posting pictures or videos about them working out or
Mm-hmm.
dancing and they're running for office, I don't think anybody cares. So I don't think anybody's like, why are you posting those videos are not political. It's pretty acceptable. So I also know that as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
I measure in a different way,
Absolutely.
and it's important for me to kind of highlight this point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm super honored and like excited to be from where I'm from and to be part of this community. And just sharing a little bit for like the folks in Vegas, welcome to the stream. Thank you for stopping by. For the folks that are watching in other places, wherever these live stream lands, my district, District 10 in Los Angeles, is a beautiful community. It's a very diverse community,
Mm-hmm.
and if you are in LA, you probably know that it has is Koreatown, Mid City, Little Ethiopia, West Adams, Leimert Park,
Mm-hmm.
our area, which is like Arlington Heights, and and a little bit of some of the Jewish area, which is Pico Robinson's house, and a lot more. So you have been in this community since you moved here from New York. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit of what you have seen and the changes and
Mm-hmm.
what you have witnessed as a community member.
Well, what I've seen is, I come from parents who were very advocates themselves. My father, although he was a maintenance worker, he rose to be what was called a shop steward, which is basically like equivalent to our union rep. And then I had my mother who really loved volunteering every year to do the polling places. So it's kind of in my blood. And so when I came here, I became involved in the neighborhood association at the time, and it kind of fizzles out every now and then. But I was president for about 5 or 6 years when I first came here, and we did a lot of things like beautification, clean up, neighborhood watch, those type of things. And
Yeah.
then I was fortunate enough to be one of the founding members of the PICO Neighborhood Council when those
Yes.
started, and so it that sense of relating to one another as neighbors, because it's so easy to just be apart from one another, going in and out to work, back and forth, back and forth. But I think that what I've seen is that there's a lot more community engagement around the different things that happen and how much we can mobilize ourselves. Again, at times we have some issues with, crime activity, things like that. And I think that we're much more readily to reach out to our neighbors to say, hey, so and such is going on, be careful, or looking out for our seniors, different things like that. And then being aware of how some of the state and national issues impact us here on a local level. So that's what's really interesting as well.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I have witnessed since I moved to LA, also, I have been in different parts of this community. I first lived in Koreatown and I serve in the neighborhood council there. And now I serve in the neighborhood council that you founded. So it's like really beautiful to see, that kind of connection there. And I know that since then a lot of things have changed.
Yes.
And I believe that after the first recession in 2008, a lot of this area, a big part of where we live. So I'm just gonna but please don't come knocking on my door. But we live in like the area between like PICO, between like Fairfax and La Brea area, in between like Venice and like what would be the other? Yeah, like PICO, let's say. So we're like in this area. This area was very heavily African Americans, homeowners.
And prior to that, it was pretty much Jewish.
And it was exactly. And prior to that, it was very Jewish. So so we have seen some influx of folks, at least in this area. And I think all over the district, but the influx all over the district overall has been more white folks.
Yes, if they're coming back. Yes, it's kind of the same thing that happened in New York, where a lot of people moved to the suburbs to get away. But then between the time of traffic and everything, there's no time really left for family or anything like that. So people started realizing that, to go out there to have something nice, but you're losing out on valuable time because you're spending most of it in traffic. And then people get stressed out and things like that. And so now there has been some little tension, between now with the shifts coming back, and some people have some concerns about that. Are we going to lose, that sense of community?
Wave in these conversations was coming because a big part for me as a renter is to make sure that people that live in Los Angeles have a chance to stay living in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And one of the things, or one of my main policies platforms, is to figure out how we can keep the cost of living low.
Absolutely.
And that comes in three different places. You got to have an affordable place to live. Because right now, 3 of every Angelino is rent burden, meaning that they're at least paying 30% of their salary on rent. Let that sink in. At least 30% of your salary is going to rent. The other piece to this that we need to keep affordable, and there's a few ways that we can do that, is the high cost of having to own a car.
Yes.
We talked about this.
That's what I was going to talk about, the transportation. And again, having been here for 30 years, that's again, although we still have a way to go, it has been a significant improvement in the public transportation to where now I can take public transportation to work. And there was no way I could do that when I first moved here.
Right. So that's the kind of second. The other part is that we spend a lot of money in like utilities, like paying, for phone, gas, electricity, water. And just to address very quickly, somebody is asking in the chat, what are my plannings around homelessness? And the way I'm going to tackle this question and stay tuned, keep asking the questions and stay with us,
Mm-hmm.
is through affordable housing
Yeah.
in keeping people
Mm-hmm.
housed. Because
Mm-hmm.
right now, and in our meet and greet, we met two women that were renters,
Mm-hmm.
professionals, um, professionals
Right.
that have, one was a school teacher, the other one
Mm-hmm.
is in the entertainment business. She's an actress and a voiceover. Tons of
Right.
folks in this city depend on that industry.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, I mean, we saw tears in my living
Mm-hmm.
room. We saw tears of
Right.
people,
Yes.
worry
Yeah.
about how uncertain the
How
future
so
is.
many people are one paycheck away from being potentially homeless. That's a major issue.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, the lady that came and shared with me that that she's a teacher, that she has, she makes decent money, but she cannot save to buy a home,
Right.
or for retirement, that she has to choose.
Yeah.
So
And she's
this.
concerned that her the owner of her place may be selling, and then what's going to happen to her when that happens.
Right. So,
Hmm.
so this is the point where I want to address homelessness. Because,
Okay.
of course, homelessness, and I'm very curious to hear your take, because you are a psychologist and
Hmm.
a PhD, you're working on your PhD.
Yes.
And, not all homeless are the same.
Right.
Some of them have mental illness, some of them went through trauma, some of them are escaping domestic violence situations,
Exactly. Hmm.
some of them were living in their car and now they're
Hmm.
sleeping in the streets.
Hmm. And
And
some are youth who find it much easier right at that stage in their life to be able to go get a gym membership and be able to shower and charge their phone and then just go hang out and sleep at this friend's house for a couple of days and then go to another person's house for a couple of days and sleep on the couch because it's just too much for them, but they're still trying to pursue their dreams, like in the entertainment business or some other area, but they just can't afford the housing, but they still want to try to live their dreams.
absolutely, and this is the part that it breaks my heart,
Hmm.
because we have some of the most expensive zip codes in this city. We have
Hmm.
people that have so much money that they don't know what to do with it,
Yeah.
and it
Hmm.
shouldn't be. It's not fair that the people that make this city amazing, the
Right.
backbone of our city, the working class people of our city, have to feel that if they sell my home, if something happens, what's going to happen to me?
Right.
That there are not policies. So I'm very invested in protections for renters, and also finding ways to also protect small landlords too.
Yes. And
uh,
also, was another area you made me think about was small businesses,
Small
and
businesses
this
is really
ties in directly to the city council and how important your advocacy could be for like our neighborhood. For example, at in the past there was a movement by one. I don't. I think it might have been a state or a county representative. I think it was who wanted to change PICO and Olympic to one way each way. And
uh-huh.
the community was outraged, our community, because we had worked so hard to start building, letting small business. We were trying to invite them to be on PICO
Right.
Boulevard in our neighborhood. And we started to get these nice little cafes and these nice little places that you go for shopping or to a record store or something like that. Small businesses. And they would be completely wiped out if that happened.
Right,
But we
right,
fought,
right.
but
So
we fought
yeah,
back, and with our council person, we were able to get those medians put in that totally
right, so
blocked
that they
that from
could
being
be.
able to happen.
And that's the beauty of like urban planning working to to incentivize and to support small businesses. And unfortunately, in the pandemic, we lost 39% of our businesses, small
Hmm.
businesses in our community. So it's really a moment for us to revitalize our community, our local
Absolutely.
communities. Okay, yeah, so we spoke about and just resetting the room a little bit here. If you're watching, welcome. I'm speaking to Xavier Leonard, who is a founder and executive director. He is all things amazing. He is also a board member with with the School Psychology Association. He's a
Yes.
former PICO NC, the PICO Neighborhood Council founder. He's
Hmm.
a amazing friend to me and a mentor. and somebody that I look up
And
to and I conspire with about a lot of things about the community too.
yes,
And I
and the program I'm currently finishing my PhD in is organizational leadership at the Chicago School of Professional
wow.
Psychology, LA campus. So I'm this close, just finishing my dissertation. So y'all keep praying and hanging in there. I was going to be done by the
Yes,
end of this
super
year,
proud.
and it'll be official.
Super proud of you.
Doctor, it'll
So
be official doctor.
So continuing a little bit on this trend, we talked about the cost of living, and we talk about how in a moment in Los Angeles where we just got another, elected official indicted, where the former
Yes.
council member in this district is indicted and was found guilty of 9 counts of different things. I'll let you all Google it. Where in the past 4 years we had 4 different city council members arrested.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. You gotta laugh because otherwise you cry.
Right.
And where we kind of the world saw the ugly backroom deals in
Mm-hmm.
politics with the
Mm-hmm.
racist recordings released a year ago, where a lot of people were mentioned and a lot of things were,
Mm-hmm.
discussed, including keeping certain districts in a certain way, keeping power for certain people, and how these backroom deals kind of take place. So
Mm-hmm.
we've been through a lot
Right. Yes.
as
Exactly.
a
And
community.
that's why it's very key. And I applaud you for doing these more intimate settings of trying to get to know the community again and to rebuild that trust, because these scandals have eroded the trust in some of our
Absolutely.
city representatives, particularly in our district. And so I think again, you're doing a great thing by doing these kind of live stream videos,
Conversations. Yeah.
coming and going to do a meet and greet here in my home, and doing those types of things, because people have lost trust, in particular in this district. And so we want to know that we can trust this person and that they truly first understand our values and what we would like to have and what we've worked on and what we want to continue to build upon, and that we can trust you to do that. And I think what you're doing is the way to do it.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, because one of the things that we discussed in our meet and greet was the need to have new fresh voices that deeply cared about our community.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when that person doesn't look like us? Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Yes.
it's not like your
Yes.
typical.
Yes.
And you said something to me that was very impactful at the meet and greet. You said, like, Aura, we need to address the elephant in the room, is that
Yeah.
a lot of folks in this community feel that this is a Black district. And even though you're Black, your father is Black and your family is Black from Colombia, you might not be perceived as
Mm-hmm.
a Black person in this
Mm-hmm.
community,
Right. Right.
and we talked about that,
Mm-hmm.
and the advice was, just address it head on, and
Yes.
and and share with people a little bit about your culture. But I think also to me at least, the bigger opportunity was to talk about identity
Y-
politics,
Yes.
and
Yes.
how identity politics sometimes really help us, and
Mm-hmm.
how sometimes identity politics actually keep us divided.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Because we could easily say, and it took for me to also addresses two things: how the identity politics could lead us astray by
Yeah.
wanting to go for somebody who kind of looks traditionally the way you see yourself as a person, and that person uses does things that's for their own self-interest and not even having anything to do with the community. But when you could look at somebody else who you're getting to know, and you listen to them and you see their work, you see their history, you see their commitment, you see their passion for something, and so you can still know that despite the person may not looking exactly like you have in your mind. And again, a lot of this to me goes back, this is my thing, as westernized culture, how it's
Right.
created this binary system. You have to be black, white, gay, straight, male, female, all this thing. All of that is westernized culture that a lot of people get caught up in. And so they don't realize that somebody like you, and especially when you got some people surrounded by you that are like me and trust me, then they know you're going with the right person too.
Right, right, right,
So,
right. And how we as voters are
mhm.
choosing people and asking the questions and choosing them for how they align with our values and what they offer, instead of like, well, this person, it has a Latino last name, so I'm just voting for the Latinos. Or this person is a woman. How many of us, raise your hand, wherever you are in your home, raise your hand if you have ever not known, you have looked on your ballot,
Yes,
and
exactly.
you don't know who it is, and this person is a woman, so I'm supporting women, and then you don't know. Like, we need to get a lot more educated about these things, friends. But one thing that came to mind, and somebody mentioned in the meet and greet, was like, Aura, the reality is that you're the real deal. That when you were given a position of power, when you were a commissioner for LADWP, you used to go to all the communities, to the Valley, to Watts, to South LA, to and to other places around the city, to hear what the ratepayers, to hear what the people that are paying that bill, that water and power bill, had to say, and how you learn about the issues and how you found solutions with those folks, which is extremely valuable. Because how many of you have ever felt like you don't know if your city council member is really listening to you? Post it on the comments, put a little heart, put a little head clap, whatever.
And who the person yourself, who you just described, and how you worked as a person, as a community organizer, as somebody who tried to talk to other people, who was very successful at that.
Right.
Who was that?
Exactly.
Who we talking? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
President Barack Obama.
Yeah, exactly.
He was the one who reinvigorated what you're doing, this type of work. And that's how you do it.
In fact, I told this story because, when I first immigrated to this country from Colombia with my family, we went first to live in New York. There's a very big, lively community of Colombians in New York. And like I said, when I got to New York, I felt like right at home, because we were all kind of the same. We were all black. Like the Puerto Ricans, the Dominicans.
Right, exactly.
We were all like curly hair, dancing salsa. Everybody was in the drums. We were all like in the same, kind of boat together. And one of the things that, that I learned in, like being an immigrant, and, after being an undocumented student, after like having to work day and night to put myself through college. And when I remember, like, I was very disenchanted by like the political process in those days. This is like mid 2000s, early 2000s. And I went and I wrote down on a note, I was like, this is all the things that I wanted to do. And shortly after, when Barack Obama started running for, he started his campaign as a president, and I learned that he was a community organizer. I was very inspired. I was like, that's my job right there. That's what I need to do. And that's how I ended up in California.
Yes.
I came here to be a community organizer, which I'm like really, really proud. And also the good weather. Don't get me wrong. And the hot springs and the nature, which I love too. But that's a whole other conversation we can have.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, earlier you and I were trying to do this live stream in the morning. We've been trying to do this live stream all day. And there was
she's a good teacher. Look at that as well. She's a good teacher.
Very patient. I was like, are you ready? Okay, let me get back to you.
I know.
But you said something very impactful to me. You were headed to the pharmacy to deal with some personal stuff, with some family stuff.
Yes.
And I want to lift up the incredible burden that is for people to have healthcare issues.
Yes.
And not just that you have a heart failure, that you have like high blood pressure, whatever it is that you have, diabetes, whatever it is, asthma. But how hard it is, even if you have mental health issues.
Yes.
Maybe if you have a drug addiction problem, or if you have, anxiety or depression or whatever it is, that you deal with, and how that also is a big part of our unhoused community deal with those issues, and how hard sometimes it's like when you don't have money, how hard it is to find the right support and to stay afloat, so you don't end up sleeping under the bridge.
Right. Yes, exactly. And again, You take me back to one of the main reasons why I started my radio talk show was that it was about mental health issues, and it was about making those more palatable and understandable and more comfortable for communities of color and the LGBT community. Because in the past we were violated basically and abused and mistrust. We had a lot of mistrust for the community because one, they labeled us as mental health disorder. Other
Yeah,
times they made us think that our issues were not really issues, but they are issues. And so it's taken a while to kind of rebuild it once again, rebuild that trust. And I wanted them to see somebody who's like them. I'm part of the minority culture. I'm part of the LGBT community, and I went through therapy myself to become a psychologist. So I know what it's like, and I know how it can save lives, how it can help people to move past the brink of potential mental health devastation. And so it's
absolutely.
key to have those resources out there, and also for us to constantly talk about those kinds of things so that people know that they're not alone when it comes to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And somebody posted here about universal health care or single payer, and we have to keep pushing for that, guys. We
Yes.
cannot lose sight. And you might be thinking, well, you're a councilwoman, you can be doing things as a congresswoman. No, we can. We can
Yeah.
have our own support. We can also push. We can also pass ordinances.
Yes.
That's part of the job of a city council member.
Yes,
We
exactly.
push your streets, but we can do a lot more.
Yes, exactly right. It's about learning all of those, learning where the barriers are and how do we tackle those barriers. The same thing like we were talking earlier about homelessness. Homelessness is not just a generic thing. There are people, like you said, some have mental health issues, some have addiction issues. Some of them have mental health and addiction issues. Some of them have, just financial some troubles that happen, or have a divorce and have something, and they just one paycheck away from being there. So we have to look at, we have to have a multi-pronged approach to all these different things, and that's
Yeah.
the same thing that we have to look and see. Well, what's the opposition against universal health care, and then break it down, and then we have to form groups of us that are able to learn how we can figure out how to tackle those barriers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just got another, I see another comment here that I want to like us to tackle. And but I want to let everybody know that I'm speaking here with Xavier Leonard. He's a candidate for a PhD, a school psychologist. He's a member of the School Psychologists Board. He's the executive director and the founder of the Leonard Turner Foundation. So please check him out. He's amazing. He is one of the people that started my neighborhood council. So I'm very proud of that. And he's a friend and a community member.
Yes.
We talked very briefly about the economy, and also public banking
Uh-huh.
and public schools. You are very versed on the issue of public schools. Let's talk about
Yes.
that. What
Yes. And
the
student
failures
loans.
and the
And student
opportunities.
loans.
Right, the failures and the opportunities. And
Yeah.
for those of you that are being watching, or maybe you don't know, Los Angeles is starting a possible way to have their own public bank, and
Oh
this is
yeah.
to cut ties with big banking, and also to be able to put all of those resources back into our community, which is an incredible
Mhm,
opportunity. So
mhm,
I'm a
mhm.
huge supporter
Yes.
of public banking. And we also have, of course, other banks like,
Mhm.
like in your, like, the schools have their own, and
Right,
black
the credit
banks and
unions
stuff,
and stuff like
credit
that.
unions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but having a public bank can be a game changer for our
Yes.
economy. So
And,
keep.
and and we're the ones to do it. A lot of people don't realize that that's why California has a lot of influence, because our economy itself can be properly, I think they said, like maybe the fifth country in the world. Like what we do in economy, we do a lot. So that's why they have to pay attention to California. So if anyone can do that, we can do that in California.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about the intersectionality between what happens at City Hall and this the school system, because
Very good.
that's kind of your bread and butter.
Yes.
And something that people often overlook, because it's the homelessness issue has become so big. We see it all the time, and it's so daunting. But I
Hmm.
can tell you right now, guys, that in my community, in my district, at least top 3 issues is parks and open space, green space.
Mm-hmm.
We are
Absolutely.
in desperate need of a park,
Mm-hmm.
at least in our area. And if you feel this way, please post some green hearts on the comments so that we can see how you feel about this, assessment. But every time I talk about public green spaces and parks, everybody has something to say. So something that I founded a mutual aid organization at the beginning of the pandemic called Ready to Help.
Mm-hmm.
And something that we did at Ready to Help, besides the so many other things, I will spend like hours here talking about Ready to Help. But one of the things that we did, one of our campaigns was the community school parks.
Mm-hmm.
So having a partnership with LAUSD and Rexham Parks
Yeah.
and opening play yards,
Mm-hmm.
school play yards as parks on the evenings and on the weekends.
Right.
The infrastructure is already there. And
Mm-hmm.
we also thought that this would be a good way to inject resources in the schools and make the play yards nice, and
Yes,
beautiful, and
exactly.
make them
Yeah.
look like an actual park.
Mm-hmm.
A
Mm-hmm.
lot of them have asphalt and it's terrible for
Yes.
heat
And
island effect and
and
all.
Pico Neighborhood Council has partnered with Saturn Elementary,
Yeah,
and so there's a very good partnership right there that has some positive outcomes that have come from that.
absolutely. And I'm part of the education committee, and I'm super proud that we try to, alleviate and work on this issue. But yeah, that's been something that when you think about, oh, the school board is this and city council members do that, there is always a way to partner up and to do
Absolutely.
good work together as
Mm-hmm.
two big agencies. So what is your sense around, this topic of green spaces and parks in our community?
I think a lot. I think some of it has to do with education again. I think that people, well, we know from a lot of times from the developers' perspectives, and from the homeless perspective, or the lack of places to rent, that people are kind of use that as a way of trying to trim back, whatever statues have been put in place already that says we have to have a certain amount of green space. So I think that some politicians and stuff are trying to leverage that as to sort of trickle down on that, but they don't realize the negatives that come with that, in terms of health, our children with asthma, different types of things that impact education, where if they're not able to run around and in a nice green space and be a kid and to be able to have that, a really good oxygenated place, to just let be free instead of getting in exhaust. So, a lot of the schools are by, very rapid streets and large streets has come down with
Freeways. If
trucks
you
and
live by
things
a
like that.
freeway, your
Yeah.
chances are you're gonna have more asthma
That,
than most folks.
yeah. And so we need to keep reminding people about what the pros are that comes from a lot of green spaces and what it gives back to you in terms of longevity, not just for yourself, but also for your children and your grandchildren.
Absolutely. Well, so we have been now talking for about 42 minutes, and what I
Wow.
think we're gonna have to do, I know it went by so
I
fast.
know,
I'm
exactly.
like, what happened?
I know, I
But
love
what
it.
I would love to do is maybe have you come back. Maybe we
Hmm.
should maybe do this bi-weekly or something,
Something, yeah.
when
Are you bringing
when
me back?
the
You're bringing me back in right at the right time, because this is my summer to come back with my social media and radio presence and all
in
that to
your
talk about on
podcast.
my podcast. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But I would love for us to maybe, as news in for those of you that are watching this live stream, I want to leave you with a couple of call to actions. Please donate to my campaign right now. You can go to the link in my bio, or you can go to my website, auraforthepeople.com/donate. You can also host a meet and greet, just like Xavier did in his home. We invite neighbors, and it's a real blast. And we get to talk about issues. And you guys also get to strategize about my campaign, which is a big part of what we want to do. The other
And it,
part is that if you have topics for us to talk about, you should send it to us.
right. And if you
So that we
and if
can
you want to get a
explain
little
it.
bit more about my background, you go to loveandx.com. That's LOVANDX.com. And also for my foundation is Leonard LEONARD Turner Foundation.org.
Absolutely. So thank you all so much for tuning in Please send us your topics that you would like us to discuss. If you have questions, send them to me. Um, it's been a delight, and some people are asking, "Can you reintroduce your guest?" Absolutely, it's never time enough to do it. So I'm speaking to Xavier Leonard. He is a school psychologist. He is a PhD. He also belongs to the School Psychologist Board. He is the founder of the Leonard Turner Foundation. He's a former founding father of the PICO Neighborhood Council, and he's my friend and a community member. So thank you
Yes.
so much.
Good to
Thank you
meet
so
you
much for
all.
being
I
watching
hope
from
I'll
the
be
East
talking to
Coast.
you all again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. People watching from the East Coast, thank you so much. People watching from all corners of the city, I'll see you all very soon. Thank you so much. Don't forget to donate. June 30th is coming up so fast. Let's go. Thank
That's
you guys,
right.
and have a great day.
Order all the way. Order all the way.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.